Hello, everybody. This is Matthew Brand, author of Magnum Creed, and we are here today again with Rose.
Hi, everyone.
And I'm your host, Matthew Brand, if I didn't say that already. So, today we're going to be talking about 7 ammo philosophies. We have a lot of people getting into carrying guns. Magnum Creed helps people find, sometimes their first carry gun or something. And I wish I had more of these energy drinks now.
Weird.
It's tasty. Somebody asked me if I wanted a third one, but I felt like that was overreach. So I felt like that was pushing my the generosity. It wasn't nice. But anyway, when people get these new guns, they tend to pick based on what kind of ammo they're going to carry, like what their ammo philosophy is, right? Because the gun, no matter what someone tells you about a gun, and this happens in gun stores a lot. The gun should fit you. It's a personal choice, and it should fit how you feel and what you want. But you do have to decide kind of what it is that makes you feel comfortable before you go. And guns hold certain ammo, so your ammo style kind of determines what kind of gun you're going to have, right? And so that's something you should think, like what's your security blanket when it comes to carrying a gun? Because sometimes it doesn't matter what you have on you. That's the gun in general is the security blanket. But sometimes that's not enough. You want a little something more. So this is 7 ammo philosophies for people looking to carry. Number 1, the more ammo, the better. Right? I wrote something under here, but some people, I see this all the time. It is. Somebody said earlier, I was reading a comment on a video earlier, and someone was like, capacity is reliability, right? Like, the more bullets, the better. You need 15, maybe 20 rounds. I'm like, what are you going to do with that? And that's me personally. Like, if you like 15, 20 rounds, I am totally for you. You should be able to carry. I knew a dude. What are you looking at?
Nothing.
What? Are you teasing me? What are you? I don't even want to know. I don't know. Huh? What is the? There's something on my face.
You're talking crap about a 15-round mag or 15 to 20 round, and you literally just got your 15-round magazine in the mail. I don't understand.
I don't have a problem, but some people look.
I'm looking.
Look, I don't carry guns. I don't know what you're talking about. But that was for resale. Look, with the how do you put it? With ammo, it depends on what you're carrying and why you want it. So some people go one or the other with capacity, right? They feel like, I knew a dude. There was a guy at what is this store called? It was a fireworks store.
What?
Yeah, it was a fireworks store, and that dude was carrying 30, 60, 90, 120 rounds on him. He was
120.
He was carrying
rounds?
101. He was open carrying 120 round. He had maybe a little bit less. He might have only had less in the mag in the gun, but I think he had 1, 2, 3, maybe even more. He might have even had 130, 60, 90, 100, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. He might have had anywhere from 120 to 150 rounds of bullets on him. And I'm like, why? What the is going down in this store that you need 150 rounds on you? Like, is there like more? Because it was a fireworks store, but I'm like, I mean, what kind of fireworks you got? You got like nukes in the back? Like, what you got 120?
What is this fireworks store a front for?
Yeah, I know. Like, you got like a bunch of coke. Like, I mean, is this getting raided later?
Is this the mule?
One person was allowed in the store at a time. Like, it was weird. I'm serious. But it was a point like, you gotta ask a question. Now, I don't care that he has 120 rounds. Like, maybe there is something in the back that he's protected with 100. Yeah. I don't care what you carry, but at a certain point, I have to ask you, like, what in your brain is going on that you're going to do that? So I asked somebody one day. I'm like, dude, why do you have so many rounds? Not that dude.
I would not have asked
Brandon,
that dude.
No, actually, my son asked that dude.
Of course
he did. Yeah, he asked
Of
that dude.
course he did.
He was like,
The
what is he,
same-
3
Yeah.
or something? He asked that dude. He was like, why did what do you have all that for? You Batman? Batman don't have guns, so he didn't have all that for. He did. We're sitting out there waiting to go inside to get this before COVID. It's hard to think of like just going and being so close to people anymore. But yeah, Brandon was all he's just looking like, why do you have all those? I was just like, he just laughed because it is what it do. Because I don't even think he could answer the question. But I did ask a guy one time at a gun shop. I was like, why do you have so many bullets on you? And he was like, well, in case somebody breaks in, I can headshot all of them. And, if we get like stormed, like he really believed that the gun store was going to get stormed
absolutely
by
raided.
People always add the joke like a bunch of ninjas. I don't think he thought like ninjas were actual ninjas, but like what is it getting raided by? Like an official squad of group, like, and then he's like, I'm like, okay, you ask these people these something. Sometimes it's like, why do you have a? It was the same reason, like, why do you have a Glock? Well, this way, everybody else in the store has a Glock. So if I need to pass them one of my magazines, I'm like, why? What the fuck is going on? Where you have to throw somebody a magazine to 30 rounds because he ran out? The fuck is going? Like, what scenario did this happen in? Like, is this happening? Is this a thing? Like, you have, this is a gun store. You have AR-15s right there. Fuck your Glock. Like, this is a shotgun on the wall. Fuck your Glock. That wasn't thought out very well. Just in my opinion, like, I don't know. If rounds is what you want, like, you've got AR, man, they're $5 a piece. Toss that bitch in and smoke the fucker. I don't know. That's a weird point of contention to sit there and be like, yeah, man, we all got Glocks, so if we run out of bullets, like, you're going to run out of all your... Because you got to understand, these people have 30-round bullets.
We're doing some American Ultra shit here.
It's not. Just nothing makes no sense. I'm not against them having them.
The logic behind it.
The logic, like when you really listen to what their thought process is going through their head, that they're going to use it when they have it, doesn't. It's completely legitimate for someone who is guarding something as important as firearms and ammunition to have lots of bullets loaded on them. My weird part is how they planned on using them by passing the magazine to somebody else across the store in this post-apocalyptic fuck shit where there's the stores getting because there's things that called a crash and dash. Somebody will just drive their ass right into a building, and this happened at a store not far from us.
What?
Yeah, you didn't hear? Oh, I probably never told you about it. This was going on at all the gun stores nearby. And they would just drive a car right into the gun store, bash into it, grab as many guns as the car, and then drive off with them. They didn't get far.
Yeah, I can assume they wouldn't get very far.
And then one dude, he lives there, so they had a shotgun in their face before they even got anywhere. But the guns are locked up, so one place didn't get far, but one dude, I don't think he did his due diligence, and they got away with some, and then he's not there anymore. So, but they got away with some, but they didn't get far. But the point in the matter is, there are some situations where, but people usually come when they're not a bunch of armed people in the store. Yeah. And when you do come and there is some armed psychopath going in the store, okay, that happens, but it usually doesn't end in this 20-gun John Wick shootout with, it's just, it's not typical. So when you have something, if you are going to, this is way too long, but I might use it in a separate thing anyway. But you know what? Tell you what, we'll do these one by one, and then we record it. We talk about each one by one. So the first ammo philosophy, the more ammo, the better. This people believe it. I mean, they believe this shit. They had that it's not legitimate for you to want 30 or 30, 45 rounds
right,
on
there's
you when
nothing,
you're in the
absolutely
store.
nothing wrong.
They have 15, and then they have on the side of them, they're open carrying as a gun store. People know they have guns. Mind blown, so
Right,
so far out of left field. That was so far out of left field. But the thing is, when you're like, when you don't want to tell police that. Like, right? Like, you don't want to tell police. Like, it's like, police is like, okay, so I noticed, the prosecutor, whatever, like, I noticed you have, like, 45 rounds on you. What, may I ask, when you shot this man, why you were carrying so many rounds? Yeah, so in case, like, 25 people came in the store and they were storming the. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. My disclaimer: this ain't legal advice. You can tell the prosecutor, this is your damn business. But I personally would not tell a prosecutor, like, yeah, man, in case like 50 people came in the store, I was gonna pay. Yeah, I was prepared to, like, if I ran out of bullets, my friend, he could pass me a magazine across the floor and I could load it up. Another dude, he said, like, I would rather have a gun with like 20 rounds of 22 long rifle. And then, like, a gun with, like, I think he was, like, six rounds of, like, 44 Magnum, because then I could, like, headshot everybody who came in. I'm like, it don't work. It doesn't work. Like, you've never. And this is when I realized something. And then I hear this. You know who I noticed this shit from a lot? Suburbans. And I'm not saying the W word. I'm going to say Suburbans. I'm not saying the W. No, I'm not saying the W word, the H word, the C word, none of those. Or I'm not going to say the C with a K. I don't know if that makes it okay if I call you people C's with K's instead of, dropping the hard K. I'm not going to drop the hard K or the C, softer C. But I'm not saying that. I'm going to call you suburban those, because the Suburbans don't see gunfights.
Tacticards.
They tacticards. They don't. They go to the military, drink water for 2 months, come back, and that's the ones who've actually seen some stuff. You know what I mean? Like, most of these people have not been in the military. They just haven't. So you think, and if you are in the military, you don't use a side piece. The hand pistol. Military people don't use pistols. Mm-hmm. I've taught a lot of military people how to use a pistol. They don't use pistols. And it's interesting because you've probably practiced with it maybe a couple times, but you have that pistol, whatever they give you. You don't, like, they don't sit there with a slide like it's Pokemon, like, hi, were you ready for your journey? Which one would you like to pick to defend yourself? That's how Pokemon starts if you've never played it. Yeah, they were like, in the first game, it's like, wait, don't go on the grass. It's dangerous out there. Here, come with me. I'll give you something to defend yourself. And then they give you, like, a selection of 3 Pokeballs. Uh-huh. And then you pick, like, in the original 3 game, it was like Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur. And you probably actually, a lot of people didn't even realize this, like, at the time. But Charmander was hard, Squirtle was medium, and Bulbasaur was easy.
Oh, you were choosing your, like, journey.
Yeah, you're choosing which one, and then later, like, if you pick Charmander, you got the coolest, like, evolved one. If you pick Squirtle, you got the strongest evolved one, and if you picked what the hell is that thing called? Bulbasaur, you got I don't know how we went from guns to Pokemon, but we got. I am a nerd. But you got it evolved. It was the weakest one, but you can catch so many along the way. But by that point, it doesn't really matter. There's more. You know what I mean? So, but dude, this is not like that in the military. You get what you get. They give you. Yeah. You practice a little bit with it, and then you're done. I mean, right. And then most likely you're gonna have to buy your own later. And to be honest, most of those people haven't even been in the military. They just work at a gun store. They've been, getting amped up about this and training and practicing, and they practice all day, and then they don't do anything.
Crazy scenarios.
Yeah, these crazy. They hadn't made us scenarios when you live in the city, you're like, damn, man, John, you got fucked up the other day, man. It's like, that's your cousin. Like, you know that dude. You said it. Sometimes you around it when it happened. Even when we look at the neighborhood thing, we look at the neighborhood stuff and they're like, yeah, man, there was some shots out this way. There's some shots. Like, that's a more reality. Out there, they're like, once in a blue moon, like, did you hear what happened? What? The Johnsons? Greg went crazy, man. Killed the wife. Took the kids with them, man. It's crazy. They're still looking for him, man. It's outrageous, man. Squirrels going to hell in the handbasket, man. Like, they don't. It's just not really. I mean, it's domestic and that's the crazy stuff. Like the domestic stuff is crazy. It is crazy. You should prepare for that.
Just
right?
in different ways.
Right, but it's a lot likely. I mean, your wife might have hired a hitman. She might. We've seen it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we've seen the wife hired a hitman. Okay. Not saying that won't happen. But the hitmans usually don't come with a swarm, right? They don't come with like 50 ninjas, Bunch of ignorant ass ninjas. They don't come like that. And people you got to prepare for what's wrong. But the people who do live in those situations, they're like, give me what you got. Like, yeah,
I'll make it work.
Yeah, I'll make it work. I'll take anything where, the people who got all the money in boring time, they're like, well, I ain't got 20. I need at least 20, 30 rounds on me. There's nothing's wrong with having extra rounds on you, but it's a security blanket.
Yeah.
And people take that to their damn grave. They was like, well, I mean, you got to have at least 15 rounds on you because the spray and pray. Oh, I hate that. I hate spray and pray. They'll say, well, my gun philosophy is spray and pray. That means they're going to just shoot a bunch of rounds at, basically they just keep popping rounds in the direction.
Just hope they hit something?
Yeah, hoping they hit something.
That video we were watching the other day with the bear. Everybody was so scared he was going to...
Well, no, he was aiming at the, away from the bear at a tree to scare the bear, but he missed the damn bear. Now, he only shot one round, but it's just but everybody was like, well, if your aim is that damn bad, what if you hit that deer in the ass? That that you hit not the deer, the bear. If you hit that bear in the ass and that bear turned around and ate you, you would have been stupid. You would have found out that round was not sufficient enough to irritate that damn bear. That bear would have eaten you. You could have. I heard a story somebody carried or something like that to stop a bear. He's like, what you could do with that? You take a file and file off the sight on the front. And then make the edge of it real smooth. He's like, oh, what would that do? He said, make it real easy for when that bear shoves that gun up your ass because it's not going to do anything. It's a fucking bear. Retarded. It's a damn grizzly. This bear's doesn't care about that pistol. You're going to blow a bear's heart out and they can still run the length of a football field.
Jesus.
It has too much muscle. And its skin is basically a bulletproof vest. Yeah. That's one thing in the first place. I mean, you can get maybe if you get it in the head or something, like a good shot. But what the fuck you want to trust that for?
Right.
And I mean, mostly you're better off having bear spray. You don't point a gun at a bear. The bear wasn't concerned with the gun. He threw a rock at the bear and the bear was like, I ain't got time for these people and left. But I mean, if that bear had decided to go in the opposite direction and you're sitting there with your semi-automatic pistol thinking you're going to do some shit, like a lot of people are carrying 10 millimeter. 10 millimeter ain't shit. Well, it gives you more rounds. Ain't shit. It ain't shit. The bear doesn't care about your 10 millimeter. You can stop a bear with it, but you're talking, there's different sizes of bears. So if you're talking like a little bear, at a certain point, you kind of look like a dick. It's just shooting up a little bear, like spray it in the face and go somewhere. But if there's a big ass bear chasing you, about to whoop your ass across the damn Alaska, 10 millimeter isn't going to make me feel comfortable because most 10 millimeter, unless you so you got two types of 10 millimeter. And this is another thing to check with capacity when you think like, oh, the more ammo, the better. When you have certain loads and you think, okay, I can fit more loads in this gun, the gun is typically meant to handle lower powered loads. So you have 9 millimeter, right? 9 millimeter is the one most people feel has the highest capacity, high enough capacity to make them feel comfortable. but it's not a not so weak of a round that makes them feel it's high enough power, but it still has high capacity, somewhere in the middle. But 9 millimeter pistols are meant to fire, something going, let's say 1,100 feet per second, somewhere to 11 to 1,200 feet per second. Well, you have plus P loads, and this is out of a 5-inch barrel, right? So you have plus P loads that go somewhere to around 1,250, 1,300 feet per second out of a 5-inch barrel. And then you have plus P plus loads that'll go even past 1,300 feet per second. That'll go to like 1,350 out of a 5-inch barrel. I specify a 5-inch barrel because a lot of people carry a 3-inch barrel or 3-something-inch barrel and then think they're getting that same performance out of a 3-inch barrel from 5. The reason this is so important is because, one, people don't practice with those plus P plus loads. They might shoot it through their gun a couple times to make sure it works and then leave it in there.
Yeah.
2, they're carrying it out of a 3-inch barrel. It is not going as fast as they think it is because you're losing a lot of velocity with those 2 inches. A lot of velocity, a surprising amount of velocity. You might be all the way down to like 1,000, 1,100 feet out of a tree.
Wow.
Usually, I mean, you can think of it almost like 100 feet per second, less with each inch. So if it's 1,350 out of one, you might be down to like 1,150 out of the 3, out of the 5 going down to the 3. 3, the recoil is really heavy. So a lot of times people will say, "Well, I'm not shooting that 40 or Smith and Wesson, right? That's a 40 Smith and Wesson. That will be the next step up in power from the 9." So they say, "I'm not shooting 40 Smith and Wesson out of my gun because the recoil's too heavy." And if the recoil's that heavy, I would rather have a gun that gives more capacity and less recoil. But then you load your 9 until it's almost as powerful as a 40, and then you expect it to have less recoil.
Right.
And then also because you're carrying a 9 millimeter, your gun is not necessarily meant to handle that much pressure. It can, but you're wearing it down a lot faster than if it was meant to handle like a 40 Smith and Wesson. If a gun is built to handle a 40 Smith and Wesson, was built to handle it. Your 9 millimeter is not built to handle the 40. So you get these 9 millimeters. Your gun won't likely explode in your hand, but you might say you practice with it, like, okay, I've been practicing with you switched in a few loads there a few times, and then the time you do need the damn gun, you're like, for people who don't shoot thousands of rounds through their gun every day or have a second gun to practice with and one that they carry and all that crap. Most regular people, right, they shoot that through their gun, and then the time they do need it, something's wrong. It's jamming up. It's not working the way it's supposed to because you put bombs through it. Like, it's not supposed to do all that. It, like I said, it's not functioning at the level you think it is because you're carrying it out of your carry gun. The power isn't as good. And it works, actually, believe it or not, it works the same way through a longer barrel. Those fancy rounds aren't meant to go a certain, they're meant, they have a sweet spot of velocity, and they do what they're supposed to do at that sweet spot. Once you overdo that velocity or underdo that velocity, you've messed up the round. That's why you notice you won't really see a lot of federal. The most popular, I would say, 9 millimeter bullet at the moment is Federal HST. I don't know what it stands for. Maybe Hydroshock 2. I don't know. The one before it was Hydroshock. Then they have HST. They never said what it stood for, so most people just assume Hydroshock 2. But it says HST. That's one of the most popular rounds at the moment. One, I've seen somebody shot with that. They were a teenager. They are walking around. He got shot in the crotch. His crotch is still intact. The bullet bounced off his pelvis. So, to keep that into perspective, a young man got shot in the crotch right above his ding-a-ling and is still walking around just fine. And honestly doesn't stay far from here. But he got in a shootout with somebody, and the one guy that got shot, they're screwed. Now, I don't mean to sound funny, but the guy who got shot with a 45 ACP. Now that's the FUD round because a lot of people are like, oh, 45. You think a 45 ACP will blow up? So it's not, no, but it has heavier weight and it tends to hold its momentum a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
That's really slow. It's slow and heavy, but it does tend to hold its weight better. That 9mm round that dude got shot with mushroomed beautifully. It looks like a flower when it popped off of his pelvis. It was beautiful when he has to, because he still has the bullet, Because you're like, hey man, look what I got shot with. He always says I got shot with one of them fancy bullets. And if you've ever seen that bullet, it's very you've seen it before. You said it looks like a flower or something like that.
Yeah, it looks like a hibiscus.
Yeah, it looks like you said it looks like a hibiscus. So it's very identifiable. You know it's an HST.
It's pretty.
So you can say, hey, I've been shot with an HST, but it did not knock his pelvis out. Like, right. You would think that that's the part you're supposed to shoot somebody with and be like, I won. You didn't.
You didn't win.
You didn't win.
Good try, champ.
Yeah, so and that sometimes handguns are not good stopping tools, and people will admit that, but then they're like, oh, but this is beautiful. It expands perfectly. It does all these things. There is no...
At the end of the day...
But there's no affirmation that means that it works really good.
Yeah.
The point is, when it expands, it just means that there's some type of hydrostatic give that goes on because your body's mostly fluid. So when you hit something, that'll put more shock to you. The person will feel it a bit more. From all accounts that I've heard from people who've been shot, and I know quite a few, yes, the bigger the bullet they've been shot with that expands, like especially if it expands, it hurts more. I know some people who've been shot with 9mm and 45 and have lived through both of them. The 45, some of the worst pain they've been in their life. 9mm full metal jacket, I mean, they felt it later. They felt it later. Now, once again, that's a full metal jacket. That's not an expanding round, but not all 9mm will expand where they're supposed to out of that 3-inch barrel. They're meant to go a certain velocity. Yeah. So when people are getting all these rounds in this gun and they're looking for a gun that'll hold as many rounds as possible, nothing wrong with that. Just when you pick out that you want that, know what you're asking for. Don't think, yes, you can get all of it in the same barrel, but okay, 9mm, you want all those rounds, you have to get a long enough barrel for the round that you want to carry, or you have to get a round that it goes with that barrel. You're not going to get super high-powered performance and get a whole lot of rounds in the same gun all at the same time. Oh, she's got to go. Okay, we got a sneezer. We got a sneezer. We've got a sneezer, and that means it's all for this episode. So thank you for tuning in. We were talking about the more ammo the better from the 7 Ammo Philosophies. Next time we'll be talking about power is king. All right. Thank you. Peace.